Hi everyone, my name is Amy Hollander and I am the Director for the Center for Teaching Excellence at Nichols State as well as an Assistant Professor in the Department of Teacher Education. And today we will be discussing applying Hyflex, hybrid feedback, and communication to your fall face-to-face courses. So the learning objectives for today are for us to decide how you plan to consistently communicate with your students as they transition back into face-to-face learning, as well as identify the best way in which you can provide timely and specific feedback to assignments and assessments in your course. So why this topic? We provided two different surveys to students this spring semester. One survey was specific to our freshmen who were getting advised through the Advising Center, and the other was open to all students at Nichols State through the Student Government Association. And in both surveys, we asked students what we were doing well during pandemic teaching, as well as things that we can improve upon for the fall and how we can support our students in the fall 2021 semester. Overwhelmingly, students indicated that they appreciated the level of communication that faculty provided and understanding. However, they felt that areas of support that they needed to be successful in fall 2021 included clear expectations for assignments and deadlines, continued high levels of communication, and constructive and timely feedback on their work. Here's the reality. Most students, no matter if they are incoming freshmen or have been at Nichols State for a few years, have had 3 to 4 semesters of online-only Hyflex or hybrid education. These students have been struggling with poor time management skills. They have had to work. They're trying to figure out how to do school and life. They've either had an overabundance of communication from their instructors or very poor communication. Many of them have a lot of anxiety about easing back into the face-to-face classroom. And I want you all to think about this. Face-to-face and online teaching does not mean that we have to be available 24/7. And I think this is something that a lot of us struggled with, particularly early on in spring 2020, when students would be emailing us constantly and we're all trying to figure out how to move our face-to-face classes online. But what we do need to think about is we need to provide communication and feedback in a reasonable amount of time. And you need to decide what is a reasonable amount of time for you and your students. So the first thing that I would recommend, even if you are going back to face-to-face instruction, is considering writing an introductory email to your students. And you can either send this out before the first day of class, or it could be a summary after the first day of class. I personally like to do the before the first day of class because I like to set that expectation that I expect to see them on the first day of class. I'm not sure how this started, but a lot of students think that we don't teach on the first day of class and all we do is go over our syllabi. But many of us instructors actually hit the ground running on that first day and want our students there on the first day of class. So you might want to ask your students to have to do something prior to class or bring something in. So then students understand they're expected to be present on that first day of class and understand that they need to be prepared to learn and not just go over the syllabus. Things I like to include in this introductory email include how does this class work? I like to include a course schedule and the syllabus or where to find these particular documents on our learning management system, Moodle. I also like to explain things like if I have a consistent deadline, all discussion board, initial posts are due Thursday at midnight. That would be in there, how many major assessments these students have throughout the course and those dates. So I really encourage all faculty to consider providing an introductory email of some sort. If it's before class even starts that first week, or maybe you send it out right after that first meeting. Additionally, if you adopted weekly emails when you were teaching in an online Hyflex or hybrid modality, I highly encourage that you continue to do that in your face-to-face classes. I personally send out an email every Monday morning, and it explains the learning objectives for that week, my expectations of how I want my students to come in prepared if I need them to listen to a podcast, read an article, or complete a quiz before class that week. Also, any major assignments that are due, and friendly reminders. I like to use Moodle Quick Mail, and I highly recommend that if you don't already use it, to put it into your course. Nicole Cotton explains in the Moodle training modules how to put the Quick Mail course block into your Moodle module. What's great about it is when you compose a course message, you can include all participants in that course message, or you can cherry pick specific participants without having to look up their email addresses. Additionally, in the subject line, it includes the course name and the section. So if you're teaching multiple sections of the same course and a student replies or sends you an email through their quick mail, it indicates which course they're already in and what section, which is extremely helpful for those that are teaching very large courses and multiple sections. And then finally, I recommend using Moodle announcements. Now, not all students have announcement subscription turned on. What that means is that the announcements might show up in their learning management system, but it won't go into their inbox in their email. So you may need to walk students through turning on those types of subscriptions in their own Moodle modules. However, a lot of faculty really enjoy using the announcements in Moodle. I will recommend that if you do use announcements, please make both your announcements and your weekly emails short and concise. I like to bullet mine, and I like to use a consistent format, and then at least my students know exactly where to look for certain things. Additionally, many of our students read their emails and open up Moodle on various devices like their cell phones and their iPads, so you want to make it as easy as possible to read. A lot of students in our student surveys indicated that they really appreciated faculty who provided important date notifications. These students are easing back into face-to-face, and although they won't be taking their courses necessarily in an online modality, they still appreciate knowing ahead of time when major assignments and assessments are due. You can use Moodle to set due dates for assignments, and when you do that, it will populate the Moodle calendar and send out notifications to students. You can also share an important date document in your syllabus or on a separate document under your course information in Moodle. Here I show you what I do. I always provide in my introduction to the course, as well as on Moodle, the specific dates for major assignments, so my students can pre-fill out their planners and kind of figure out their work schedules for the semester around my major assignments. Some faculty share a pre-filled Google Calendar that students can then subscribe to, and it will automatically populate their own Google Calendars, or provide a paper calendar, and students have expressed appreciation for both. If you do provide an important dates document, Google Calendar, or populate the Moodle calendar in your course shell, please make sure you use university-specific dates, such as when drop dates are, breaks, financial aid due dates, and graduation application dates. That helps students better plan for the semester as well. In addition to providing weekly emails, announcements, important date documents, you can also provide friendly reminders and recordings. We're going to need to scaffold our students back into the flow of a face-to-face class. And if a student unfortunately gets sick or misses a class, they may still need to receive those reminders that they missed out on because they weren't in class that day. So a great way to do that is to provide recordings. You can use your Zoom account, Screencast-O-Matic. You can provide recordings that go over major assignments. So if you're finding that everyone is emailing you the same questions about a particular assignment, or if you don't want to spend class time going over the instructions and grading rubric of a major assignment, you could create a recording and then students can reference that recording whenever they have a question before sending you an email. You can also create a recording going over the syllabus as well as your grading rubrics. I highly recommend that if you provide consistent, similar assessments from semester to semester. So for example, if your course has 5 major exams, or all of every semester you require a personal reflection at the end of the semester, then to keep your recordings each year and not having to redo them, don't use due dates in these videos. And then you can just keep that recording forever and ever. Some faculty, if they require a research paper, they make a recording on how to do a lit review or how to write up the bibliography if it's APA or MLA. And then they just continue to use that recording every semester. But I highly recommend that you use recordings for those, what would be 3-page emails explaining an assignment or explaining a grading rubric. Now we're going to move on to feedback. There are 2 core principles to providing good feedback. One is we need to make it timely. Studies have shown that feedback on lower stakes assessments and activities are most beneficial when they're immediate. So think about those Moodle quizzes, or if you are doing short discussions, those would be where you would want that immediate feedback. But feedback on major assessments are most beneficial after delay, after a student can debrief themselves on that major exam or that major paper. And that's great for us because we need time to provide good feedback on those assignments. The second principle to providing good feedback is you need to include clear directions for improvement. If you're only providing grade justification, students don't know how to improve for the next assignment. So what does this learner need from me? That's the question you really should be asking yourself when you're providing feedback. A lot of faculty like to use the this time, next time comments, where they will tell the learner what they did well or need to improve upon from this time and what they expect for next time. Sometimes I like to do a positive, negative, positive. So I'll point out the things my student did well, and then I'll discuss areas of improvement, and then wrap up with I'm really looking forward to seeing those things that you're doing well as your improvement to wrap up my feedback. When we need to provide feedback, we really need to set deadlines strategically. And I am a complete hypocrite when I'm talking about this because I am terrible at this. And then I kick myself every semester when all my classes' major assessments seem to be due the same week and I need to turn around the feedback. So please consider your own availability for providing feedback just as much as you consider pacing and activities in your course schedule. If you know you have a major conference coming up, advising load, or other activities, then you might want to consider when those major assignments are due so that you're not stressing out about trying to turn around the feedback for those assignments while doing everything else. Be intentional in how you set your due dates. Really think about, can I get this assignment back to my students with good feedback before the next assignment is due so they can use that feedback towards the next assignment. I'm a big proponent of communicating expected turnaround times. I always tell my students, give me 3 or 4 days to provide feedback on your discussion boards, and I need a week or 2 weeks to provide feedback on lesson plans or other major assignments. Consider what you're willing to put up with when it comes to your inbox as well. For example, should due dates be set for Sunday at midnight or Monday at midnight? If you set a due date for Sunday at midnight, will you be available on Sunday to answer any last minute panicky questions? Or would you rather be able to do that when you come in Monday morning to your office? So really think about how you set your due dates for your own personal life, just so you don't have to worry about responding to your students on your precious weekends or if you have a big family event coming up. You can also avoid the onslaught of emails by building in just-in-time conversations. You could build in assignment or material reviews into your course schedule. Some of us feel that we don't have that time during class, and so you might want to consider providing some review sessions or some just-in-time conversations where you block off time throughout the week before a major assessment or assignment is due. A lot of faculty this past year utilized 10-minute check-ins with students where they would block off additional time from their normal office hours to do 10-minute check-ins with their students. Students could use a Google Doc or Candly or another application to sign up for slots, and then they can check in with you and ask you all the questions they have about a particular assignment or assessment. You can also schedule an extra office hour or review session right before a major assessment, and that should cut down as well on having a ton of emails in your inbox. I also recommend that you do things right after a major assessment. If a student wants to go over something, these are all great tactics to allow students to come in and discuss one-on-one or as a class how they did on an assessment. We all are required to provide office hours, and you can get creative with your office hours and or review sessions. A lot of faculty recently have been rebranding their office hours, calling them happy hours, afternoon teas, and consultations to make them a little bit less intimidating for our students. If you are planning on providing review sessions, please announce those sessions ahead of time and schedule them early on in the semester, particularly around those major assessments. That allows students to get off of work and find childcare for those review sessions. You can also reduce the frequency of various events that you might hold. So you may always make appointment office hours, but then you can reduce the frequency of general open office hours and schedule them strategically in the semester around major assessments. I highly recommend that you encourage students to submit questions prior to any open office hours or review sessions so that you know how to prepare for it, and also it forces your students to prepare for those meetings. Some faculty will offer incentives for attending review sessions or office hours. It might be an extra point on a low stakes assessment. And if you are going to be providing a review session, I highly recommend that you gamify it using Kahoot, Jeopardy, Hollywood Squares, and using example questions of what might be on the assessment. It's a great way for students to test their own knowledge. And then you can provide that personalized feedback in that session and start identifying if there are common misconceptions that might need to be addressed before that assessment. I think Nicole Cotton can repeat everything I'm saying here, but use technology to your advantage. In Moodle quizzes, you can provide immediate feedback. If you are going to be providing low stakes assessments that students can take a few times, like 3 times, and then you record their highest score, you can, if a student gets something wrong, you can say, hey, check out lecture 2, slide 15 for where this correct answer is, and guide them to where that answer is. If they are doing well, even if they are doing well, being told they're doing well is really nice. And if there are areas of improvement, please provide that as well. There is a rubric tool in Moodle, and there's also a rubric tool in Turnitin. If you are requiring written assignments, I highly recommend that you use these rubric tools. It's a lot easier for you to click through that rubric, and then students can immediately see where they're scoring well and where they're not scoring well. And then finally, I like to create general feedback statements for every assignment that you can customize. So I might review the concept at hand and show them the expected answer I wanted to see, and then tell them what they did well and their area of improvement in that same general feedback statement. So I write it out, and then I give it customizable pieces. And then that saves me a ton of time when I am grading in a large class. One other thing you can do is you can give meaningful feedback through media tools on Moodle. You can record your comments using audio or video tools. Moodle allows you to record up to 3 minutes of audio-visual feedback for every assignment. You can also provide whole class feedback after an assignment was turned in using a YouTube video or other multimedia. I really like doing this if I see that the whole class is doing something really well, or the whole class needs some help in a specific area on that assignment. And I always include that this is because I want them to be successful on the next assignment. Some faculty have started doing this, and we see this a lot in language and literature. But having students respond to your feedback before providing a letter or numerical value to the assignment. So you're forcing your students to actually read and respond to your feedback before they can receive their grade. And I think that's really terrific, particularly in our lower level classes where you are trying to prevent those students from repeating the same mistakes as they move their curriculum. So to summarize this presentation, students need consistent and concise communication no matter the modality of the course. And students have explicitly expressed that they want continued communication from their professors. That's something we did really well over this past year and a half, and they'd like to see that continued. Students all need targeted and timely guidance in order to develop a sense of self-efficacy. If they feel like they understand how to improve their grade, they will then go forward and try to improve that grade. So let's empower students to succeed through the use of efficient and effective feedback. If you have any questions about this presentation or this material, please feel free to contact me anytime through my office email, either the CTE email or my Nicholls State email. Take care and have a wonderful fall semester. Thank you.